Joining us now to talk about both of these aerospace stories is aerospace expert Dr. Ken Kremer. Thanks for being back on the show with us, Ken. The Israeli spacecraft Beresheet, let's begin there. It has successfully conducted its final major maneuver. Explain why this is significant and how it sets the moonlander up for the rest of its journey to the moon.
Sure. Thanks for having me on. Well, this is a critical maneuver. It gets it out to the orbit of the moon, which is where it needs to be. Okay. Otherwise, it can't land. So that's the key thing. It sets it up for lunar capture around April 4th. So just about 2 weeks from now, they don't have to do any other maneuvers to get it into orbit. They will have to do maneuvers to land it, but at least it's going to get to the moon. One way or the other, that great little spacecraft is going to reach the moon.
So it sounds as though it's pretty much easy sailing from this point onwards. What could foil this? I mean, what are some of the potential biggest obstacles that could be ahead here?
Sure. Well, the engines have to work. That's the main thing. They have to work. They have to work right. They have to slow it down so that it soft lands. You know, it could crash if the engines don't work right. Of course, the communications have to work. The radar, as they descend, has to all work. But the key really is, assuming they keep in communication, is that the engines have to work. They have to fire precisely to give us a soft landing and not a crash landing.
But it's pretty guaranteed then that the lunar gravitational pull will successfully pull it on or pull it into the surface.
Yes, that's what they said in a briefing today, that it will be captured. They have to only do the maneuvers to get it down to the surface. And of course, they have to land in a safe spot. That's the other thing. They could land perfectly well, but if they land on a giant rock and flip over, that's the end of the mission.
Okay, so hard landing, but hard landing or soft landing, there's going to be an Israeli spacecraft on the moon, it sounds like.
Yes, I believe it will happen. Yes,
okay,
one way or the other. That's what I'm saying.
Let's focus on another big news story in the aerospace world today, and that is the U.S. signing an agreement with Brazil that's going to allow American rocket companies to operate from Brazil. The president saying that Brazil's proximity to the equator makes it an ideal launch location. Explain why that is.
Well, you need less fuel because you're near the equator, so you get to the Earth orbit faster. But I really don't see much advantage to the United States to doing that. It'll employ Brazilians. I'm not sure how well it's going to do. You know, for our companies, we have great companies in SpaceX and United Launch Alliance launching from here. So it may be wonderful for Brazil. I'm not sure it's really good for us. And we have to remember, space technology is very, very difficult. They have tried this before at Brazil, and they had an accident about a dozen years ago, and it killed almost 24 people. So it's critical that if they're going to do it, they have to invest properly.
Well, it sounds like the big incentive here is to save money, because if launching from the equator saves rocket companies fuel because of shorter flights, doesn't that then perhaps encourage further space exploration, more private companies perhaps trying to take a shot at the moon, if you will?
Sure. There's a lot of companies in the small satellite market, and that's probably what this is aimed at. But to develop, you know, heavy lift boosters, that's quite a stretch. And they already do that in South America. The European Space Agency in French Guiana, they already have a huge space base there. So and that's right on the equator. That's even closer to the equator. So yeah, it's good, but again, I'm not sure this is good for American companies.
Very quickly, why not?
Well, it's going to employ Brazilians. We can do the same thing here. There'll be a slight difference in the cost, but you know, I prefer to launch from the United States. That's what I prefer.
All right, and
it employs Americans, and that's really the whole point. Is we want to build up our technology. I think that's what the focus should be. Working with international partners, it's great to work with them, but I think we really need to maintain robust American launch bases. That's what we need.
Perhaps there's more room for synergy, though, there that benefits everyone. Ken Kremer, thank you. Always great to have you on the show.